So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone in the world. I am Takumi Ohashi. I'm assistant professor at Tokyo Institute of Technology, or Tokyo Tech. And actually from 2019 to 2020, I was a visiting faculty at the Center for Design Research, Stanford University. And since then, we have collaborated regarding the neurodesign research. And so today, it is my great honor to introduce Dr. Atsushi Maki, who will share his great experiences with us. So Dr. Maki joined Hitachi Limited Japan in 1990 and promoted research and development to construct initial concepts and technologies currently used, such as brain function measurement technology, named optical topography and fNIRS in 1995. And optical topography has been employed for medicine in the area of neurosurgery, psychiatry, and neuroscience. And he's currently the chief researcher at the Center for Exploratory Research, Hitachi Limited, Japan. He recently wrote a Japanese book entitled Designs for Resonating with Mind, which describes the design methodology based on brain and neuroscience. And in his talk, he will introduce the principle and applications of optical topography and the concept of designs for resonating with mind to improve our living environment. So are you ready, Dr. Maki? Okay, let's welcome Dr. Maki.
Thank you very much, hospital introduction. And thank you very much, Dr. Owen Hammer. So is it correct pronunciation?
It's perfect.
Dr. Ohashi. So I will start my talk from now. I will share my window here. Okay. Sorry. Wait.ちょっと待った。これで、これの。Okay, I will start my talk. So today's talk is entitled The Design for Resonating with Mind. And I will talk two issues. For first one is the development of the optical topography system, and second issue is applied brain sciences. And my name is Atsushi Maki. I'm working in the Hitachi Limited. And first of all, my fundamental work was optical development of the optical technologies. So we used light to measure the brain functions, and also I developed the optical authentic technologies. It is used in the Japanese bank. It's better measure technologies. Then I moved to the neuroscience field, and especially we focus on the developmental sciences. So I measured baby's brain function using the optical topography system, and also using some behavioral techniques. Then I moved to develop some business based on the brain sciences. So I will introduce some parts of my work today. So today's talk consists of the two parts. First one is a challenge to development of mind scope. And the second one is a methodology of applied brain science for mind-centric industry. So this is because the industrial value is shifting from the material value to mind value recently, I think. So Therefore, we want to develop the mind scope. So I will start the first part. I think so. Scopes have changed. So changed sciences and our lives. For example, microscope elucidate some life sciences and also changed our bodies. And also telescope elucidate the space and making some knowledge of the fundamental knowledge of physics. However, mind is still mystery. So I think the mind scope is a very important next technology to elucidate the next field. So that is a motivation to develop the optical neuroimaging technology for human brain functions. In 1995, we published the optical topography systems. This photograph is my daughter, and she is already 23 years old now, maybe. So she was 3 years old when I got these photographs. So the characteristics of the optical topography is very usual neuroimaging system. So because we can measure no constrained states of the participants. And also we can make mapping of the brain functions. And this light graphs figures were first figure of the motor brain functions obtained by the first system of the optical topography. And this is the comparison of the neuroimaging methods. Basic neuroimaging systems. There are 5 basic neuroimaging systems in the world. First one is a functional MRI, and second one is PET, and third one is optical topography, and fourth one is MEG, and also the EEG. And the optical topography system is the special resolution of the optical topography is centimeter. So it is less than functional MRI and PET, but it's better than the MEG and the EEG. And the sizes are very good. So because we can make the mobile type of the optical topography system. But another system functional MRI PET is we need room and floor, and price is very expensive. So price is almost same as the EEG, and we can measure the brain functions under daily life because there is no muscle noise. And so in the case of the EEG, the muscle noise is a very disturb the functional measurement. And the principle is, as you know, the principle is the optical topography is we use a near infrared light around 800 nanometer. This photograph, I irradiate the white light. Then I take the photo in the opposite side. So you can see the red light transparency. So red light can easily transparent the human tissue. So that is the reason why near infrared light is employed to measure the brain functions. This is the vertical figure of the head. So first layer is scalp, and the second layer is bone, and the third layer is cortex, which is the gray matter, and the fourth layer is white matter. And usually we put the two optical fibers to measure brain function. And the distance between the irradiation optical fiber to the detection optical fiber is 30 millimeters. And in this technique, we have to use the two wavelengths because the optical technique can measure the oxygenated hemoglobin and deoxygenated hemoglobin. And the absorbance of the oxygenated hemoglobin and deoxygenated hemoglobin is different among the two dual wavelengths. So we can measure the concentration of the oxygenated hemoglobin and deoxygenated hemoglobin in the human tissue. And when the brain activated, so blood volume increase in these cerebral cortexes. So blood, 45% of the blood consists of the hemoglobin. So hemoglobin absorbed the scattering light. Then the light became weaker by the activated brain function. So first development, we invented the modulation type of the measurement system. That means we have to use the two wavelengths. However, each wavelength was coding by different frequency. It like a radio. So in this case, we can simultaneously irradiate the two wavelengths. Then we can measure the two wavelengths intensity separately after the detecting by the electrical circuit. In this case, we can measure the multiple positions using this modulation technologies. So we succeeded to measure get the image each 100 millisecond. This first figure was obtained when the participant moved light finger tapping like that. Because the left hemisphere control the light movement. So if we measure the left hemisphere, we expect to measure the increase in the oxygenated hemoglobin when participant moved his finger. However, if the participant move his left finger, we cannot expect to observe the increase in the oxygenated hemoglobin. So that is an experimental design when we develop these systems. Because we have a very small amount of the budget, so we have the limited channels of the optical systems. So we developed such kind of the design of the experimental design. Anyway, I will show the real experimental measurement scene and also the real data of the brain functions of vision and also the auditory functions. Can you see the movies?
Yes, we can.
He has brain. And setting is not so difficult because the optical fiber is like a cool. So, and this is a real data. You can see the visual cortex was activated by this visual stimulations. And then he
Once upon a time, there was a
got to
princess who lived in a
hearing
kingdom far, far away. And in that kingdom, there also lived a boy, and the princess loved that boy, and so the
some
two decided to...
stories. So maybe you can see the completely different type of the brain activity between the vision, the case of vision and the auditory functions. In the case of the vision, you can see very stable activation in the visual cortex. However, in the case of the auditory function, a lot of parts was activated by this story, because the story and the auditory function is very dynamic. And so you can see the such kind of the brain, such kind of the dynamics of the brain functions by using the near-infrared optical topography systems. And this is a very important study. It was a very important study for me, because I aware that importance of the brain measurement by these studies. In this study, the patient was hydrocephalus and the age was 1 year old. So of course, the baby cannot speak. So, however, the mother wanted to know, keen to know, the baby can see or not. However, this baby, the half of the brain was disappeared. However, the occipital lobe remained. So we expect that this visual cortex might work by the visual stimulations. This is the horizontal axis is a time, seconds, and the vertical axis is hemoglobin concentrations. And these two lines, during this period, we exposed the flashlight to the baby. And this blue area was the cerebellum. So we expect no response with the flashlight. However, this area was coordinated at visual cortexes. We observed a very clear response in the visual cortexes. So we concluded that baby can feel the light, but I don't know can see. But we can say the brain was activated by the light. So mother was very enjoyed, and she was really happy to know this kind of the measurement result. So in this case, there is no way to check the visual functions. So I understand that brain measurement system is very important by this study. And recently, the brain-machine interface is very focused on some areas. So, for example, the Neuralink succeeded to generate the 100 words in 1 minute, I think, using the invasive type of the neuroimaging. So, however, we tried to brain-machine interface using the optical topography, because the optical topography is non-invasive type of the neuroimaging systems. And this study was done 2007. And so I think this is the first brain-machine interface studies in the world, I guess, using the optical topography system. And in this study, the computer ran the personal brain function patterns. So then participants start to thinking, this train start to move. So we make this kind of the systems. I will show the movie. She start to learn. She start to think. Sorry. Then you can see the train start to moving. She stopped the thinking. It's me. It is very, he was very young. He start to think. And he stopped. So it's like a brain switch. So we can control the go and no go. And the success rate is a 97%. So it's not so difficult. Then after this publication, we try to develop the communication system for the ALS patient. So in the case of the ALS patient, final situation of the ALS patient cannot move any muscles. So the ALS patient cannot give any information from his brain. So finally, however, the brain is working. So we try to measure the brain activation using the optical topography. And we try to the 4 type of the psychological stimulations. And we can see the different type of the brain functions on each psychological stimulations. In this patient, in the case of this patient, dichotic listening and word fluency task can make very big signals. Then we try to finally the 1-bit communication systems for the ALS patient, because we have to develop the very cheap system. So we used just single channel at the frontal lobe. In this case, we can communicate yes or no answers. So closed, we give if we give the closed questions, if the ALS patient wants to say no, so patient no think. And if the ALS patient wants to say yes, so in this case, the ALS patient start to mental calculations. So then we can observe the very clear signals in the frontal lobe. So finally, we succeeded such kind of the developed such kind of the communication systems. And recently, our collaborated company New Corporation developed the ultra small new systems. This system named XB01, and the sensor arrangements 1 light irradiations and 2 light detections. This nearest light detection was arranged in order to eliminate the skin blood volume, blood flow change. So in this case, this system, this device can measure the very accurate brain signals. And the cost is very cheap. So in Japan, the cost is about 30,000 yen. So maybe it's very convenient. It became the convenient equipment to check the brain functions. So they are trying to check the brain function for the aging people using the XB01, and they are try to use for the prevention medicines, like preventing the dementia. And also that they developed the different type of the optical topography system. The name is a WTHS. So it is developed for the research. And it is completely wearable type of the optical topography system. And this system can measure the frontal lobe and the temporal lobes. And measurement positions are 34 positions. And also there are 22 detector in order to eliminate the skin blood volume changes. And also this system can measure the haired area. And also this system has the 3D acceleration sensor. So it is easy to check the moving artifact in the brain function measurement. However, so I'm thinking the psychological experimental design is very important, because in the case of the microscopy, usually we cannot see in the shape of the nerve. So usually we use the equipment of the microscopy and cell staining. So cell staining can enhance the boundary of the nerve cell. For example, the gauge staining method randomly stains very limited cell and the entire cell. And finally, this staining prove the hypothesis of the neuron, which is the single cell. In the case of neuroimaging, the cell stain is like psychological experiment is the same load. So usually we use the neuroimaging system and psychological experiment. So psychological experiment can enhance particular brain functions. So we have to develop the newer psychological experimental designs. For example, if we want to measure the language functions with writing, in this case, we show the picture, then the participant write the name of the pictures. However, this brain function, including the writing, motor function, and also the language functions. Then we prepared another stimulation. So this is the meaningless shapes. So in this case, this function include only the lighting functions. So lighting plus language minus lighting is a language functions with lighting. So we have to understand how psychological experiment design is important to elucidate the brain functions. This is one of the good example performed by us and my collaborator, Professor Jack Miller. I'm afraid he died 2 years ago. And we tried to measure the neonate linguistic brain functions, because it was a very big discussions when the human was born. They has the ability of the linguistic functions. In this case, we gave the mother tongue language sound. We exposed the mother tongue language sound and the neonate wearing the optical topography system, both temporal lobes. Because there is Broca and Wernicke areas in the left hemispheres. And this side of the result is obtained from the left hemisphere, and this side was a right hemisphere. When we expose the mother tongue, Howard mother tongue language, this is a natural mother tongue languages, we succeed to observe the very significant response in the Broca's and the Wernicke's areas. However, we cannot observe a significant response in the right hemisphere. Then we expose the backward mother tongue languages. So this sound is just a reverse side of the tape, like the young people doesn't know the tape. Reverse type of the speech. So in this case, the sound spectrum is completely same as the word type of the speech. However, backward speech is not language, just sound. So if we compare between the word and the backward, we can check the language functions with hearing. In the case of the silent, we cannot observe any response in the temporal lobes. The baby's age was just 2 to 5 days. So finally, we concluded the neonate can discriminate mother tongue languages. So that's this is the first result of the neonate linguistic functions. So I want to move to the second part. I want to talk about the methodology of the applied brain science for mind-centric industry, because I talked the value is changing now. So from the material value to the mind values. And however, how to make a mind-centric environment? I think that is the concept is the neural design, I think. So now I'm thinking about what is mind. Mind is very difficult. So usually mind is not natural sciences. But recently we understand with a lot of technologies, we understand from the cell to my body. And usually we are thinking the mind is generated by brain. However, the brain is received signals from the sensory organs. So those signals are light, sound, and chemical substances, temperature, and acceleration generated in the environment. And this signal, and using this signal, brain is generating the mind, and finally decide the output signal via effector organs. Then we can output motion and face expression and language and secretions. So, and the environment was affected by our outputs. So then the environment changed, and get inside our brain again. So I'm thinking the mind is generated by the brain and environment. So this interaction is the essential point of the mind, I think. However, we have to think about a gene. So because the gene effect is not, it is very, it cannot ignore the effect of the gene. However, there are various comparison studies of identical twins and deovular twins are revealing both environmental and gene effect on mind. So I don't have a long time to talk precisely, but I can summarize the roughly. About 50% of the individual differences in intelligence and emotional tendencies can be explained by genes. And also the non-shared environments encountered separately, the remaining approximately 50% effect. So we have already the technology which can change the gene. However, it is very difficult to change our gene for quality of life, just quality of life improvement due to ethical viewpoints. Therefore, optimization of the environmental signal is only the way for mind-centric situations. So we decided to develop optimized environmental signal. That is a concept is designed for resonating with mind. And our hypothesis is there are two models to increase mind values. Model one is provides environmental factors that resonate with the mind in order to nurture neural circuits and promote growth. And second model is provide environmental factors that resonate with the mind in order to lead to intuitive behavior and emotions. No growth and no nurturing. So there are two models. There are two models for the outcome of new design, I think. So we have a lot of environmental factors: food, medicine, images, and movies, and sound, light, temperature, and also the interaction with people and the social activity. Everything is environmental factors. So we have a lot of subjects of the research. This concept, if literally speaking, it finds the jigsaw puzzle pieces, which are mental models or neural circuits, in other words, that makes up the mind and implements them in the environment. So that is a concept that designed for resonating with a mind. So, however, it is not a new concept, because this is a very famous studies, as you know. It was performed by the Professor Ramachandran, and this study gives the very important information. This study, the result show us vision gives big impact. And in this study, the Professor Ramachandran try to develop to eliminate phantom pain. Phantom pain is uncontrollable tremors, movements, and pain in the severe arm. And finally, he found effects and safety. By showing the movement of the opposite healthy side with a mirror, this picture, the patient watch just the mirror movement. Phantom limb pain disappears immediately. That is the point. So visual stimulation is very strong, give the very strong effect on the brain. And the effect continues for the while, even if the mirror is removed. So it's very interesting because the neural circuit was generated by this very short time stimulations. However, the effect is effective for about just 50% of the people. And the rest remaining people who have no effect or who are worse. So it is necessary to handle individual differences carefully. So we have to understand the environmental stimulation gives a very big effect. So we already give this attention for the effective and safeties. So the notices is the effect of the environmental signals on brain and mind is stronger and acuter than we think. We must consider both the effectiveness and the safety because the brain cannot judge whether it is good or bad for my and our brain. That is characteristics of the brain. So I will introduce some small studies using the natural environmental contradictions. Maybe the Japanese people knows this design. This button design is used in the elevator in order to open and closed door. And this left side is the button which can open the elevator button. This side is close the door. But most people cannot press correctly. Why do we press the wrong button? Because we learned much time when I get ride on the elevator. However, we cannot study this type of the, design. So we try to perform the experiment using the standard type of the button from the 1 to 3. So the number 1 is the most popular button design in Japan. However, the 2 and 3 was used for some elevators. And we designed the new button design number 4, 5, 6, 7. And we, at first, we expose the plus mark during rest period. Then the participant touch a button on the screen after the voice of the open or close as quick as possible. And the total trials number is 600, consists of the 30 participants by 20 times. So the results are shown in this figures. And the first result, this is response time. So you can see the number 1 button design give the very worst results because response time is 1.4 seconds. However, this number 5 design is the best. Another design is not so bad. But anyway, so this button design is very bad. And total error number is, in the case of the number 1, it's the highest. It is very funny because the response time is very slow and error score is very, very worse. So this button design is not good. And also we check the learning efficiency between the latter half and prior half and the latter half. So because each people try 20 times for each button designs, so we divided 1 by 1, 10 by 1, 10 by 10. So we calculated the improvement of the response time between the prior time and latter time. So number 1, it is difficult to it is very difficult to learn. However, the number 5, the response time improved very much. So it's very interesting. This is the most slowest response time, but it is very difficult to improve this response time. So this button design does not match our mental model. So why we use this button design, I don't know. But anyway, this face type of the button design is very good button design. And we gave a questionnaire for each participant, but we got the very funny results because the most participant like the number 1 button designs. So I understand questionnaires doesn't give any knowledges. So I guess the behavioral experiment and brain experiment is very important to optimize environmental design. So why did we design such kind of the face type of the button designs? So because we know the 2 evidences by old psychological and brain science researchers. So face recognition is very special for the human. For example, the baby can learn mother's face within 45 hours after birth. And macaque monkeys can recognize the face with a single cell of the temporal lobes. And this area is a very specialized to recognize the face recognitions. So that is the reason why we use the face shape to the for the this elevator button design. Next session is I will explain some success in the business. That is name is a praying design for resonating with mind. So this is a initial story during 2 years between the Bandai, which is a very famous toy maker in Japan, and we exchanged a very long discussion in 2 years. So at first, the Bandai's people asked us, can you make a toy that makes us smarter? So I answered, it is very difficult to prove scientifically. So toys, however, Bandai says toys are important for development. The president, the prime minister, and any ethnic group grow up touching toys when they are young. Yes, I understand. That's exactly what you said. It's very important. By the way, how do you decide the specifications now? So Bandai answered, mainly we use questionnaires to parents. So we thought, that's strange because babies use toy. I have to ask my baby. We have to ask my baby. Recently, the development of the baby's cognitive function has come to be understood by measurement. So then the Bandai answered, I would like to consider it. So please join from the product planning. So I answered, all right, thank you. So we tried to develop the brain toy for the babies with the Bandai corporations. Our concept of this project is the nurturing the brain. So we are thinking that we have to give the adequate stimulation should be given at adequate timing in order to produce a neural circuit. This is a figure of the neuron and also the synapses. And we have the result of the changes in the numbers or density of the synapse during the life. So horizontal axis is age in this figure, and this vertical axis means number of density of synapses. And this blue line shows the synapse number in visual cortexes. So the maximum number of the synapse is observed in 8 months. And also this red line shows the synapse density in Broca's area. So it means language functions. So you can see the synapse density became the maximum at the 3 years old. Usually from the 1.5 years to 3 years old, we have the very dynamic linguistic functions that is named vocabulary explosions. Usually the children can memorize 2 to 3 words in a day from the 1.5 years and 3 years. So that is very much to this cognitive change is much to the changes in the synapse density. So we thought there are a lot of cognitive functions in the brain, but each cognitive function has adequate period to acquire these functions. So that is a concept of the this toy project. So we start lot of experiment and find the closer timing of each cognitive functions. And also we collaborate on company and academic psychologist and Hitachi neuroscientists. And also our result was reviewed by professional scientists. That is one of the business model. So I will skip this. For example, the visual function from the 0 to, I'm sorry, I cannot see. From the 0 to 6 months. This is, for example, from the 0 to 2 months a baby, they can discriminate just circle and face. And also, they can discriminate circle and triangle. And from the 3 to 4 months, they can discriminate opposite upside down face and straight face. And also they can discriminate very precise checkerboard and rough checkerboard. And from the 5 to 6 month baby can discriminate the face expressions. So this kind of the experiment was implemented in the product. Also, we try to coordinate functions from the 1.5 years old to 3 years old. So 1.5 years baby, 50% of the 1.5 babies can arrange the two blocks of the dog, and also if they age, if they grow up, growing up, their functions become complex. So finally, in the 3 years old, 3 years old children start to make 8-piece blocks. So this function is really difficult because they coordinate the finger movement, also that they check the match of the figures. So maybe this is a very high order of the brain functions. So finally, we got such kind of the coordinate functions by the experimental results. And this is the most favorite experiment. And because we try to the nurturing early steps of the sociabilities. And we focused on the theory of mind. So theory of mind, which means the ability which can understand others' thoughts. The ability start developing around 4 years, from 3 to 4 years. Therefore, it is the base of the sociability. And we make the hypothesis, the role play, a pretend role play might make theory of mind functions, because this brain must understand another person's behavior. So we try to check the score of the theory of mind using Sari-Ann test and Samarti's test. So we concluded finally this pretend role play can nurturing the theory of mind, because the score significantly increase after pretend role playing. So we start to develop the sociability using the playing toy. So that is a very, this is a very my favorite experiment. And I think the neurodesign concept is can use for the full life, from -1 to 100 years old. And we have a lot of techniques based on the gene measurement and the brain measurement with the morphology and functions, and also the behavior measurement. And I'm calling the the integration of these techniques is the mind scope. If we summing up the knowledge of the brain development and cognitive development from the baby to old people, we can solve a lot of mental diseases. Also, we can make a mind-centric environment based on these knowledges. But this is very difficult field, so we move to the step by step. And finally, I want to talk about whole life design for resonating with mind as a future neurodesign work. So this is my hope. This part, I will talk about my hope. So in 2080, I led the very important study published from the Salk Institute. So this paper described the DNA in hippocampus of neglected mice is related. So I was shocked after reading this paper because the social activity changed our DNA and probably they changed our brain structure. So I think the sociability is very important factor in the future world. So I think develop the sociability is one of the important issue in the neurodesigns. I'm focusing on the parent-children interaction therapy, or training method, because this therapy is very effective on the neglect parents and also the developmental diseases. The concept of this method, therapist intervened between the mother and children. And the purpose is the changes in the attitude of the mother to the children. So because, not mother, parents. And parents is the biggest environment for the children. So this is the reason why effect on the various programs in the families. However, future, I guess some agent and robot might be able to intervene between the children and parents and people, between and people and people. Probably the machine is very good way to make a good relationship between human and human. Maybe it will realize 2050. So I will die. I think the new role of the machine surpassing the human brain is as you know, the growing computer like AI capabilities brings autonomy to all machines. Consequently, the autonomous machines must understand human and intervene in their lives. So probably the machine gives a lot of intervention, understanding, and the interventions. Because, for example, if the driver suddenly feels sick in the self-driving car, the car has to change his destination and go to the hospital. So in future, machine must understand the mind of the human and give the good intervention on the human. So we started some small studies. We tried to make language expression using AI, because language is a very good way to understand the behavior and also the mind. And our goal is the emulation of develop the emulation of human language functions. Might be very difficult, but it is very important technologies. And we have to develop the sense way and the recognition way and the computerization and lingualizing. So we are collaborating with Tokyo University for the development of these technologies. And also some agent give some emotion effect. In this study, we measured brain function using the functional MRI. When the agent give the mimic expression of human expressions. So when the participant smile, this agent also smile. In this case, if the agent smile, this area is activated very much. So probably such kind of the autonomic agent system can make a good mind states, I think. This is a future target of one of the future target of the technologies. And finally, I think the neural design is very important for all of our lives. For example, the education, children learning, and caring the elderly, personalized insurance and health advices, and the emergency support, or marketing and the distributions. I guess the neural design is one of the center method to make good quality of life for us. Thank you very much.